Can your Mosin do this? And this? Then it might be Polish. Hello everyone, I've got another rare and interesting Polish rifle to share with you guys from before World War II. And for once, it is not a Mauser 98 rifle. Well, at least not in terms of the action design of it. What I have over here is a Polish Mosin conversion rifle to 8mm Mauser, designated the Wz or Wz.91/98/26. So how did this rifle come about? Well, in the interwar years, after World War I, when the Second Republic of Poland was formed, the then boundaries of that country kind of fell into parts of what is now the Ukraine and Belarus. And in those regions, especially the eastern part of Poland, there were a lot of Imperial Russian Mosin M91 long rifles. When Poland re-emerged as a country, the first thing it needed to do was reorganize and re-equip its military. And at that point in time, it did not have a arms industry of its own. It just kind of took whatever the former occupiers had left in place. So obviously there was a lot of these Mosin M91s. Well, they weren't necessarily preferred as a rifle, and so at the first opportunity, many of these were traded off to friendly countries through trade agreements, like with Finland in the early 1920s. When the Polish military standardized on the 8mm Mauser cartridge in 1922, Poland took a look at the leftover Mosin M91s in inventory and tasked two armories to see if they can be converted to 8mm Mauser. These were Machine and Weapons Factory Arma in Lviv, which is currently Lviv in Ukraine, and the other was Warsztat Ruszyńcarski numer 1, or Workshop number 1 in Warsaw. Now what I'll do next is kind of summarize the modifications that were done at these facilities to convert these rifles. And I do want to give a shout out to Sam at the Mosin Museum, who just recently put out a video not too long ago about these rifles, and he goes in way more detail than I will, so I'll just kind of cover it from a high level. So first, what they did with these M91s is they significantly shortened the barrel, and they rechambered it for 8mm Mauser. At the bolt, the Poles modified the bolt face and the extractor to be compatible with the 8mm Mauser cartridge. The rear sight ladder was modified for the ballistics of the 8mm Mauser cartridge. The magazine was adapted for 8mm Mauser. The interrupter and ejector were modified. The stock was shortened. A new handguard design was implemented, and the front of the rifle was reconfigured to use a Mauser 98 style bayonet lug and H-band. These conversions were designated the WZ.91/98/20 something, where the 91 corresponds to the Mosin M91. The /98 comes from the Mauser 98 system, that is the conversion to fire the 8mm Mauser cartridge, and the /20 something corresponded to the particular configuration iteration of the conversion. There were three types of converted rifles. The first was the /23, which is the earliest and hardest to find, and it actually utilized the Mosin spike bayonet rather than a Mauser style. The /25 was the second version of this conversion, and that is the first one that used the Mauser 98 bayonet lug and H-band in the front, and the interrupter ejector was a single piece design, and /26 is the last iteration of this, and it is the most commonly found one, and it's basically the same as the /25, except it uses a two-piece interrupter ejector. During the mid to late 1920s, these conversion rifles were used by cavalry, horse-drawn artillery, and the gendarmerie. But in the 1930s, these were already being withdrawn from Polish Army service and have been relegated to use by border guards, state police, and national defense battalions. As far as production values go, it's really kind of hard to pinpoint how many of these were made, but there are a couple of data points from inventory counts from various years. One resource that I came across showed that in 1931 it was recorded that there were 43,843 accounted for. In 1936 it was recorded that there were just 20,805 in inventory. But then later in 1936 this number is reported at 76,445. Now, why this number fluctuates is extremely, in this extreme fashion, is kind of mind-boggling to me, as it wasn't like any of these additional rifles were made in the 1930s to make up for that value. So those reported quantities are a little bit suspect. As far as markings go, they have a small Polish eagle on the receiver and the barrel, as well as the chambering 7.98 for the 8mm Mauser. There is a serial number matching on the receiver and the barrel. With the bolt, I do want to point out that the bolt is not matching to the rifle, but it completely matches itself, and it is a correct Polish one, which, by itself is pretty rare. There is a Polish eagle and a serial number on the bolt face, serial number on the bolt handle base, as well as another small Polish eagle. And flipping it over on the back, the cocking knob does have the matching serial number there as well. Here's another look at the Mauser 98 adapted extractor and bolt face, which looks quite different than that of a regular Mosin. The rear sight ladder is stamped with the serial number as well. It's a bit hard to see, it might be hard to get on video here. Matching number on the floor plate of the magazine. It is upside down, but there's a matching 3-digit serial number on the front band. It is a bit faded, but there's also the matching serial number on the stock. And the butt plate is matching too. Now, as far as other receiver markings that you might find, those rifles that were converted by Arma Lvov might have Arma Lvov stamped over here on the side of the receiver, but there have been documented cases where it's just blank. The other rifles that were converted by Warsaw, they would have had a nice big Polish eagle, the letters WRN and 1 stamped along with the year of production over here. And since this has the markings over here on the barrel of that's kind of corresponding to Arma Lvov rather than the nice marking of the Warsaw Armory, it's safe to assume that this is a Arma Lvov produced rifle. One last interesting point is that this particular rifle has these sling attachment points for a original Russian M91 Mosin rather than the Mauser 98 style bands that you would typically see on later updated versions of these converted rifles. However, as seen, there really isn't a refurbishment stock stamp applied on the buttstock of this rifle, so this one seemed to have escaped those updates. Now, when I acquired this rifle for the first time, the first thing that surprised me was how kind of small, I guess, and light and handy this kind of felt in my hands, because when I thought of Mosin M91, I think of this big, long, heavy rifle that's, you know, super unwieldy and stuff. And this kind of feels almost like a K98K or a Car 98A kind of carbine almost. Now this one does have a bit of a nasty stock crack over here in the back of the receiver, but I mean, this is a matching stock, and these Polish Mosin conversion stocks are extremely rare. So I mean, I don't think I'm really going to be doing anything with it. And if I do intend to shoot this, I'll probably put it in a like a reproduction or aftermarket stock, just to, you know, put some rounds down range. But otherwise, I think I'm going to keep this, you know, really nice matching Polish stock in its original condition. But yeah, it's a very nice, rare unicorn rifle that I'm very proud and happy to add to my collection. And thanks for letting me share this with the community.